The pen is mightier than the sword. America was established by the men and women that truly wanted to be independent. From the battlefields of Lexington and Concord to the debates in the Pennsylvania State House, America is the culmination of revolutionary individuals such as Benjamin Franklin, George Washington, Thomas Jefferson, and Alexander Hamilton. What sets America apart, though, is not only their tenacity to usurp a sovereign, but in their ability to invent a citizenry. James Madison risked his life, honor, and sacred fortune to create a We the People. James Madison, America's leader. Madison emerged as the silent leader during his time at the College of New Jersey. There he would meet a teacher who would enlighten him and set his legacy into motion. Reverend John Witherspoon taught Madison under the philosophy of the Scottish Enlightenment. The Enlightenment was a period of time where academics and intellectuals encouraged people to think for themselves rather than believe what they were told. Madison used what he learned from John Witherspoon about the Scottish Enlightenment to design the future government. Once out of college, Madison took a step into politics. He started out at the Orange County Committee of Safety. Then, he was elected to the Virginia House of Delegates. Following this, Madison was present at the Virginia Convention. There, he was a leader in creating a new state constitution for Virginia. Madison attended a convening of states known as the Annapolis Convention of 1786, where the Articles of Confederation were to be revised because they did not allow for a strong central government. Representatives from 5 of the 13 states thought the Articles of Confederation would become too weak and fall apart. The original goal of revising the Articles was not successful because the Annapolis Convention was poorly attended and there were not enough states present to make the needed changes. James Madison and Alexander Hamilton were instrumental in urging all 13 states to gather in Philadelphia with the purpose of revising the Articles of Confederation. This would forever be known as the Constitutional Convention. Madison needed an argument about how the Articles were flawed. This was Shays' Rebellion. Shays' Rebellion was uprisings of farmers protesting against local and state tax collectors and judgments for debt. Madison would use this as proof to the opposing states that the Articles of Confederation were flawed and help him convince opposing delegates to attend the Constitutional Convention in May 1787. The heart of the convention debate was that the Anti-Federalists feared the government would become too strong, whereas the Federalists feared the government would become too weak. At this time, James Madison wrote the Virginia Plan to present his theory of how the new government would work. As a result of many debates, a newly proposed document called the Constitution was introduced. This had always been Madison's intention, to create a new document to serve as a framework for the government he envisioned. This new federal document would change how the people of America were governed, not only for our founding fathers, but for generations to come. James Madison was a key member of the Constitutional Convention. Not only was he one of the youngest delegates at the convention and present every day of it, but he was also the first to arrive in Philadelphia, showing his initiative and leadership. In addition, the Constitution was mirrored off of Madison's Virginia Plan, which outlined 3 branches of government. These were the legislative branch, the executive branch, and the judicial branch. Madison based this government off of the idea of a republic, similar to the philosophy of the Scottish Enlightenment. A republic style of government gives power to the people and yet still puts the nation before individual needs. Madison would also implement a system of checks and balances. This would become the foundation of the new Constitution. During the Constitutional Convention debates, Madison recognized the legislative branch would be the most powerful because they had the most say in the nation's decisions. To counter this, he suggested splitting the legislature into 2 parts, which would later be known as the Senate and the House of Representatives. The Virginia Plan also specified that representation in government would be based on population of the state, while the New Jersey Plan proposed by William Patterson called for equal representation in a one-house legislature. To settle the dispute between the 2 sides, the Connecticut Compromise, or Great Compromise, was written. A majority of the ideas of the Connecticut Compromise would be taken from Madison's plan. It called for representation proportional to the population of states in one house, and equal representation in the other. Deciding whether slaves would be counted in population was another problem. The 3/5 Compromise settled this issue, with one slave counting as 3/5 of a person. This was important because it gave southern states more seats in the House of Representatives.
This whole 3/5 compromise, it grew out of a debate, really. And the debate was, how much work does a slave do anyway? And everybody agreed that a slave does not do as much work as a free person, because a slave lacks incentive to labor. And Southerners said, well, a slave does 3/4 the work of a free person. And Northerners said, no, that's too much. A slave only does half the work of a free person. And so they ended up splitting the difference and going with 3/5.
The Constitution was written, it was ratified by 9 of the 13 states. However, there were 4 anti-federalist states that did not ratify. The most concerning was the state of New York. James Madison, Alexander Hamilton, and John Jay collaborated in writing a series of essays called the Federalist Papers to persuade the anti-federalist states to ratify the Constitution. They were concerned that without the support from all the states, the Constitution could be overturned. Out of all of Madison's papers, Federalist 10 and 51 are considered the most important. Federalist 51 concerned the structure of government and the importance of checks and balances. Federalist 10 was about factions versus minorities.
Madison wants the majority to rule, but he wants the rights of the minority protected. When they talked about minorities, they thought about, men of property not having their property, not losing their property, or religious minorities not having their freedom of conscience trampled upon.
After much debate and over several years, the Constitution was fully ratified, although the anti-federalists still feared the federal government could become too powerful. They wanted an additional document that protected citizens' natural rights. Madison created such a document known as the Bill of Rights. Madison's Bill of Rights had 12 original amendments proposed. 10 would be ratified during his lifetime. Even after Madison's death, his legacy of the Bill of Rights would be felt even stronger. Throughout the summer of 1787, James Madison and the other founding fathers accomplished something that was a huge step in cementing the creation of a new nation. The writing of the Constitution and the addition of the Comprehensive Bill of Rights were the beginning of a new and improved national government. The Constitution gave the nation's governing body new structure and purpose. The Bill of Rights is the basic law system in place to this day, and without the Bill of Rights, our natural rights, including life, liberty, and the pursuit of happiness, would not be protected. These 2 documents solidified Madison's legacy. However, Madison's legacy in some cases is arguable, especially the title, Father of the Constitution. His title was arguable because people said he didn't physically write the Constitution. In addition, when the Virginia Plan was proposed, Edmund Randolph was given the credit because he presented the plan to the delegates. Because of this, people didn't believe Madison had anything to do with writing the Virginia Plan. Since the concepts of the Virginia Plan are clearly seen in the Constitution, and because Madison wrote the Bill of Rights, the title, the Father of the Constitution, is well-deserved and appropriate.
I think Madison's greatest legacy to America was his thinking through the idea of Republican government.
Additionally, Madison as a leader is often overlooked. He was shy, short, and was certainly not a powerful man like George Washington physically. Instead, he found his role not on the battlefield, but on paper. Madison would serve in many positions in the United States government throughout his political career, specifically in the House of Representatives and 2 terms as President of the United States. Unfortunately, Madison brought Americans into their first declared war, the War of 1812, and so his presidency is looked upon negatively. Madison's leadership skills would leave a profound legacy behind him. From drafting the Virginia Plan, one of the first stepping stones of the Constitution, to writing the Federalist Papers in his tireless effort to ratify the Constitution, Madison's impact on America would bring the nation a better future. His legacy of the Bill of Rights would be impacted and expanded in future amendments that broaden the term "We the People." His legacy can be seen in future amendments such as Abraham Lincoln and the 13th Amendment that abolished slavery, and also in the 19th Amendment that gave women the right to vote. James Madison was a visionary who foresaw a more inclusive "We the People."